What's up, y'all? So it's time. You know what I'm saying? I want to take my time with this. I didn't want to have to rush through nothing or feel like I forgot something. I finally have my 6-month review of me using the Sony a7S III. I want to stop moving like that. I am a little bit. Did a little forest walking earlier, so yeah. But in all seriousness though, I've had the a7S III for like over 6 months now, and I've used it extensively for like a lot of jobs and professional jobs, film work and all that. So instead of me kind of going over the same things that most people have already went over in their reviews in regards to specs and 4K 120 and all that, like a lot of that stuff we won't be covering. You're like, we're gonna actually break this camera down into categories. And those categories are gonna be for film work, weddings, and then like, you know, your professional work, whether it's like creating social media ads or if you shoot events or like talking tag, stuff like that. Well, not like an actual talking tag, but something similar to a talking. I'll show you a clip. So the first thing we're gonna break down is the film work part of this camera. Now, if you own an a7S III, can it be used for you to actually film movies? And I'm gonna say yes. Now, even though I'm saying yes, there are some things that you have to consider about the a7S III that you're going to get on cinema cameras, especially like a 6K Pro. So let's keep that in mind. I'm only talking from perspective of like what this camera lacks and what it actually has. So, one of those things will be time code. Now, depending on what type of budget you have or what type of production that you're shooting, I wouldn't, if I were you, if the time code is important, I would not look for an a7S III. I feel like that should just go without saying. Next, it doesn't have waveforms. Now, again, I feel like that's kind of a, you can go either way with that, and even with a time code, because with a Ninja 5, a Ninja V, whatever, you can still get those same features without actually having those built onto the camera. So this may be a moot point to some, but still something that the actual body does not have. The next thing it does not have is shutter angle. Now, to me, I'm gonna be real with y'all, I can kind of go either way with that because I've learned how to shoot. Like my first camera was a Canon SL2, so it didn't have shutter angle either. The only camera that I had to have that was actually the GH5. So to me, it wasn't like a big deal. Me personally, I can't see a difference between 23.98 and 24 frames per second. If anybody's saying that they can, you know, okay, big dog, you got it. But nonetheless, it doesn't have shutter angle. But to me, in my films that I've shot, I feel like that hasn't really made a difference. Like if you watching, like as you're watching some of the B-roll now, the film work that I shot, like even though it does not have true shutter angle or true 180 degree second rule, the film is still gonna come out looking filmic. You're still gonna get that cinematic motion blur. Everything is still gonna look perfectly fine the way you want it. I have no problem shooting this movie, like shooting any type of movies on this. I've shot 2 horror movies, like a poetry in motion series, my Captain Chicago series. Like I've done a lot of different productions with this camera, whether it's free or paid work in the film world, and 24 frames per second has never been an issue. Sorry, I kind of spaced out that a little bit. Again, when forest walking. So, moving on. Now, in regards to image quality in comparison to something like a FX6 or FX3, I don't know, I've never shot with those cameras, so I hope he wasn't here for that part. But to me, you don't really need a cinema camera anymore to shoot cinema movies. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, like, if you think about it, man, like, right now, the cinema line has pretty for the most part, it's caught up with the mirrorless line. So, for example, a7S III has the ability to shoot up to 15 plus stop dynamic range, right? I mean, but, only like 12.7 of those are usable, maybe 13, 13.1 if I'm not mistaken. Gerald, don't correct me if I'm wrong. But, like, if you look at like the Sony Venice, which is like a $70,000 camera, or heck, if you look at that, some of these other high-end price cameras, most of them, that's like where they at. You know what I'm saying? I think some of them was below that. So as far as like, this camera having the dynamic range that you need in certain film work, SLR3, I'm telling you right now, fam, SLR3 is, that's it. Keep in mind, I am coming from Vlog-L, and Vlog-L was just, it had like a really weird problem with the magenta shift in that. Now, obviously, I think you just tweak that, but it's just like, when I have my a7S III, I have a corrective LUT, and my boy Sean Miles has made, but other than that, like, it's looking fantastic straight out of that. You know what I'm saying? All I can do is go to DaVinci Resolve, input the correct color space. I mean, yeah. By the way, this is gonna be a longer one, okay? So just do me a favor. I'm pretty sure if you're still here, you like the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, help me out. But anyway, moving on. Now, weddings. Oh, let me tell you something right here, man. I absolutely love this camera for weddings. Now, something I did forget to mention in the film world, I don't want to forget to mention in this segment here, which is going to be the autofocus. Listen, it's almost like especially if you're doing films, right? I hate to go like to bounce back like that, but if you're doing films, the a7S III is like your focus puller being. You can like set the speed of how you want the transition to go, what the sensitivity is going to be like. Like it checks a lot of boxes with autofocus. And with me filming weddings, coming from something like the GH5, oh wow, man, it is night and day, fam. It is literally night and day. Being able to lock onto my bride or lock onto my bridesmaid or the grooms or the groomsmen with with precision. You feel what I'm saying? And sometimes, I don't know how it does it, but it'll get like, even people like in different stances, it'll still get everybody in focus, like even for group shots. Like I've literally seen this box highlight different people's faces, let me know, I guess, like they're being picked up. But I mean, I haven't had a single issue with having this camera like for autofocus, like at all. Hey, random, if you're feeling the lighting, you feel what I'm saying? Like, you got the Nan lights here. I am gonna do a review on those. I don't know if y'all seen my last video where I reviewed some RGB lights. Yeah, it didn't turn out too well, but from some are saying that I just gotta, that was just bad quality control. But so far, the Nan lights, accent lighting, rocking with it all day, baby. It looks good. So, moving on. The autofocus in this camera is just unbelievable. Like, it is phenomenal, okay? To be honest, it's almost like I said, it's like a little magician just pulling focus for you within the camera. Does that make sense? It probably doesn't, but you get what I'm saying. And like I spoke about in the film production part of it, the footage of it, right? So if we're gonna talk about the actual codec, this camera has the ability to shoot RAW and 10-bit. I wanna be honest with you, okay? I've shot for like some high-end clients, okay? I've shot for, I shot for the Obama Foundation with this camera, right? No, not once has anyone ever said like, yo, I want raw footage, to be real. Now, I'm not saying that it's not something dope to have, but right now, ProRes RAW, number one, is so limited. Number two, the file sizes that you have to manage when using RAW in comparison to something like, XAVCS or XAVCHS, it's not worth it. You know what I'm saying? 10-bit footage is more than sufficient for any of your work needs, right? Again, if you are professional, I mean, depending on what you're doing, you more than likely don't have to force colors to change to your whim. You get what I'm saying? Now I understand, like, and what I mean, let me explain what I clarify by that. People like to have RAW because they can manipulate the colors heavily, not have to worry about like any breakup. But what I'm saying on professional sets, you usually have the things that you need, the lighting, the practicals, or your set design. You usually already have all of that the way you want it, so you really don't need to change and manipulate the colors like that. The true benefit that you get with using ProRes RAW, the noise reduction can be pretty aggressive. Not to the point where the footage is not usable, but if you don't want the noise reduction on it at all, you do have the benefit in shooting RAW. I would definitely give you that. But other than that, there's no point in regards to file sizes to me that's worth it. So don't get so caught up in a RAW hype like this camera don't shoot RAW. Like 10-bit is more than enough, okay? It is more than enough. Now, in regards to overheating, have I had any overheating problems with this camera? Hell no. Like, yo man, I done shot some long video, whether it's 4K 60 or 4K 120. Like I've shot some long video in 10-bit glory and all that be, and I've never ran into issues, especially on weddings, with this camera. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is not overheated at all. I got through a whole wedding with just, 3 batteries. We'll touch on battery life as well. But recording that long, you know what I'm saying? Being able to, like, cause the thing is, me and my partner, we shoot 4K, we shoot not 4K 24, we shoot 4K 60 10-bit the entire wedding, right? Because we have the option to slow things down when I have to worry about keep switching frame rates. We know we put on a 24p timeline, the motion blur we could add it back in if we wanted to, but other than that, it's not like a huge deal. So being able to slow anything down, any scene that you want in those magical moments, you coming off the aisle, you coming off the east wing, you finna hit the aisle, then they're throwing it up, they do their proposal kiss, whatever, their proposal kiss. They do their, you are now married kiss, and you get to come down and get that shot, and you get to put that in slow mo at any point in time. To have that flexibility, man, and not to have to worry about overheating is this is one of the reasons I used to like shooting with the GH5, because I was able to shoot 4K 60. Granted, it was 420, it was still 4K 60, it looked good. It was nice to have that, that type of flexibility. Moving on to, again, wedding talk. With this camera being in a gimbal, with it being lightweight, that is a plus. Now I did get rid of my Sigma 24-70 because the camera's already lightweight. I didn't want to have something even heavier bogging it down. And the Sigma 24-70, man, even though my RS-C2 was able to manage it, it is still a heavy setup. But having this camera on a gimbal with a Tamron 28-75 and then also having a fully articulating flip screen, so even when you wanted to get into briefcase mode, you can go ahead and flip your screen now and still look down and see what you're shooting. And to know that you're recording because you get that big old red box that comes around the screen when you're recording. I mean, like, this is what I'm talking about. Be like, this camera is it, baby. Like, this is the dream camera I've been asking for. Like, I remember 2 years ago, it sounds like I was from a different country, I mean, different city, 2 years ago. I remember 2 years ago, I was talking about my perfect camera. I even think even last year, I was talking about the perfect camera. And I felt like Sony seen that video. I mean, they was obviously working on this camera before they watched that video. But I feel like, I feel like they heard my prayers or something. Be like, the camera guys answer me with this camera. Again, if you haven't yet, I feel like if you're still here, just hit the thumbs up. Because I mean, you really into it at this point. Of course, I have not shot with this camera in a wedding for like photography, but I have used this camera for photography. 12 megapixels is more than enough, B. Like, I don't know, so if you all can see it here, right there, that picture on my wall, that picture came out phenomenal thanks to Eliza V frames. And I did an ad for her. And I got it off the front camera of my cell phone, and it looked fantastic. This is a full frame 12 megapixel sensor. Like, stop listening to people when they sit there and tell you you cannot use a 12 megapixel sensor for photography or printouts. It's just not accurate. That is completely false. People can sit there and say like, oh, you're gonna be able to notice the details, I'm gonna have that much detail. There's a really good video by Chris Howe. He mentions this, and he does a test showing the difference between like a medium format camera, I think, which is like 100 megapixels or 50 megapixels, something absurd like that, right? Again, medium format, and compare it to the A7S III 12 megapixel printouts, and every single one at least got one of those photos wrong. Like, you cannot tell the difference. I mean, and the ones that got right, they was purely guessing. It wasn't like a, yeah, that's it, Bob. Wasn't nothing like that. Well, I should have said Chris, because his name is Chris. Okay. Now, moving on to commercial client work. And that's in regards to like social media ads, events, and things of that nature. And does the camera possess that professional look with the quality and image quality it has? Yes. I mean, like, to be real, fam, if you have a camera that shoots 4K 24 at this point, you have a professional camera. But in regards to like actually being a benefit to having this camera, there are definitely things that, is a huge benefit to having an A7S III for professional work. One of them is definitely having the flexibility to do 4K 120 and 4K 60 at 10-bit. So if you do things like video portraits or even like corporate events, whatever the case is, be able to shoot any of that stuff down and then catch those magical moments in slow-mo, it's a really dope way to impress the client. You feel what I'm saying? So like when, Susan spilled the drink over there on Karen, and they was like, oh, Karen going crazy on her. You know what I'm saying? You can catch everything like in slow-mo and, just make it like a little fun little montage of it or something. I don't know. That's random. That's really, really random, I know, but, we're here. Also, what's dope is this camera have USB-C charging. So if you are on like a long client shoot and you don't have the extra money to get that, like that Bauer joint, the one that Armando Ferreira got, I'm getting that at some point. Or you doesn't have like a lot of extra batteries, you can use USB-C charge on this. So for client work, you can just plug it up, set your interviews up, and you're ready to rock. Now, granted, this camera does not have XLR audio built into it. I know people keep saying you got like the K3M and all that, and I've actually considered it too, but to be real, the H4n Zoom H4n is more than sufficient, right? You can just get you a small rig cage, go ahead and get you an H4n, put that joint right up there on top. There you go, you have XLR audio now. Now, the reason I want to consider the K3M is because I have a big job coming up, which it may be beneficial, but I may just sit there and just rent my FX6 for this more than likely. But it can be done. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not missing out on not having that built into the camera. You know what I mean? Like, if you're running a gun, you need XLR, okay, then fine. If the K3M is needed. But other than that, if you're doing like, again, this commercial work, like what I'm telling you, interviews and stuff like that, Get you a Zoom H4n, baby, and you ready to rock. Now, the last thing I want to touch on about this camera is, I felt like, to be honest, like the most important thing, and that's his workflow. Now, we talked about the codecs a little bit, but I do want to say this. I am using a Mac M1 Mini, 8 gigabytes, 512, right? Nothing super special there. And I am using DaVinci Resolve. To be real, man, with smart rendering on, you know what I'm saying? Like on DaVinci Resolve, which is kind of like, I guess, you know, Final Cut Pro equivalent, you know, rendering in the background, whatever. And H.265 files, I'm editing like a breeze, fam. Like, maybe it's just DaVinci Resolve because it is M1 optimized, okay? I would say that DaVinci Resolve is a M1 optimized NLE. So, video editor. So, I'm breezing through my footage, like with no problems at all. So, I would definitely say if you are wondering if this camera, even with 10-bit footage, is it easy to work on, is it easy to edit? Yes. I am blessed to have this in my workflow. So other than that, man, I feel like I covered everything. I hate to go ahead and do the Philip Bloom, but I feel like this is the first review. I wanted to make a review that I wanted to see. I thought all the reviews I've been seeing, thumbs up if you haven't yet. All the reviews I kept seeing kept talking about the same things, whether it was about you know, the autofocus, the low light, the battery life, or the specs. Like, I mean, like I know the specs of the camera, you know what I'm saying? Like, tell me some real world usage, show me some footage, let me see some B-roll. Like, let me, you know what I'm saying, B-roll of the actual, what you're talking about, not just B-roll of the camera. As you can see in this video, there is no B-roll of this camera. You've seen enough of this camera. I wanted to give you all a first-hand perspective of what this camera is like for film work, weddings, and commercial work. And I feel like I nailed that. So if you appreciate the video, man, please sub. I mean, you made it this far. You gotta rock with how I'm rocking. You know what I'm saying? Sub, hit the like, comment, which, you know what I'm saying, what's your favorite part about on the A7S III, and you know, we out, bro. Like, we done. We winning out.